Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the 42nd episode of the Since I Was Young podcast for all news, chats, and reviews concerning Heart of Midlothian. Joining you, as always, is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and my co host, Alan Scrimger. We do hope you are all well. And why wouldn't you be after Hearts picking up their first 3 points after God knows how long? We as Hearts fans are all particularly happy about that. And of course, we will delve into that later on in the episode where we got all 3 points up in Paisley, where Hearts emerged victorious against a 10-man St Mirren. So, of course, we desperately needed that. And obviously, we will talk about the game and a bit of the changes in the actual game itself and some standout players as well. So we'll talk a bit about that a little later on. Beforehand, we'll have a wee chat and a wee sort of the debate about some of the contracts in general, just as a sort of where we are, like in terms of contracts. Now, more specifically, we had another first team squad member that got a contract extension this afternoon. We're recording on a Monday evening, which happened earlier on today. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we will end the podcast on the next game, which is on Wednesday night, which we face Aberdeen, which will be a very interesting clash for the Jambo. So we will end the podcast on that. So that is your jam-packed episode of the Since I Was Young on the Since I Was Young podcast. There we are, Ewan, well done for this evening. So before we start, as always, guys, if you are not subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast, please think about subscribing and smash that like button. We're in the process of trying to get a normal podcast on Spotify, on Apple. We're trying to get it done. Because when we first started, we thought, let's do a podcast visually. Let's not do a normal podcast where you can just actually hear it. So we're in the process of trying to get that done, and hopefully, if you're sort of not on YouTube that much, hopefully you'll be able to hear all the episodes of our glorious chats on a streaming service coming to you very soon. So we'll keep you updated about that. But in the meantime, if you want to get in contact with us through our social medias, you're more than welcome to. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at SIWY Pod. Alternatively, if you want to contact us directly, you certainly can. We're at Since I Was Young 1874 at gmail.com. And finally, if you want to get in contact with either myself or Alan, our links to our Twitter pages will be in the description. So, Alan, as I said at the start, we're going to have a tiny chat about some contracts. Obviously, of course, throughout the last sort of 7 or 8 months, where we're kind of in the sort of the last quarter of this season, of course, we've tied up some really important players, players that that have been vital to this season, of course. The likes of Craig Gordon, Halkett, Kingsley, etc. So it was quite important to tie them down. But of course, we've got the very controversial contract extension as of today of our I want to say our second choice left wing back, but for the last few weeks it's kind of been our first choice, but I'm not one to gloat at all. But of course I am referring to Andy Halliday, who more specifically got a 2-year contract extension to stay at Tynecastle. Now, I'm going to kick things off, Alan. You did text me and you said that you were a bit surprised at the fact that it was a 2-year contract extension. Now, I was kind of on the same boat as you, but I was genuinely expecting that if Andy Halliday was going to get anything, it would literally just be a 1 year. But yeah, so Robbie had decided to offer Andy Halliday a 2-year contract, and of course he has accepted. What were your thoughts, Alan? What was your sort of mind process of that when Andy Halliday has put pen to paper to stay at Hearts for the next 2 seasons?
Yeah, do you know what? I've kind of gone back and forward on Andy Halliday for a little while, as you know, and as people that will listen to this know, I wasn't his biggest fan, and I'm still not really.
Mhm.
But I think, and I said this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it, I think if Andy Halliday has signed a contract knowing that he's going to be a squad option, knowing that maybe he's not going to play every week, then I'm happy that he signed that deal. Because I assume that it would be with some sort of wage that reflects that rather than that of a first team player.
I agree.
But you know, it's one of those. Andy Halliday, like you said there, divides a lot of opinion for lots of different reasons.
Of course.
Some people like him, some people don't. Some people like him for what he does on the pitch, and some people don't like him for what he does off the pitch. And obviously, supporting a certain side of Glasgow seems to infuriate people a lot more than I feel like it should.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Andy Halliday, as I say, is the sort of person, and he's an experienced head as well. Don't forget, you know, we do have quite a young squad, and Robbie's wanted to go down that route of having a young squad. So having experience like Andy Halliday in and around it is maybe not a bad thing. I kind of thought he might have been away in the summer, to be honest.
Yeah, you and me both.
So when I heard today the news of the new contract, I thought, okay, if it's a year, you know, that makes sense. And then to see it was 2, I thought, okay, you know, that's an interesting, yeah.
Quite a statement, yeah.
Yeah, but as I say, I mean, if he's keen and he seems happy and he seems like he wants to stick around and help out and talks a good game about the ambitions of the club and wanting to be a part of it. So there's nothing wrong with having a player like that around the club. And I think people they're perhaps a little bit unfair on Andy Halliday when it comes to his technical ability because I put it on Twitter earlier on, and I stand by it that he's far from the worst player that we've had in recent years.
No,
okay,
true.
He's nowhere near the best that we've had.
Absolutely not. No,
we've had players over the last 18 months even that are worse than Andy Halliday.
Thinking dog shit, yeah.
Well, exactly. And I mean, it's funny because I put a poll up on Twitter about it just to sort of gauge opinions, and I'm actually quite surprised with the way that it's gone. Based off of all the things I've just said. So the poll was simply thoughts on Andy Halliday's new contract, and it was either correct decision or wanted him in the bin. And 82% of people said correct decision. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't really know what does.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that. So sorry, just interrupt that. And I'm saying that 82%, I would like to clarify, was not me making up all these like accounts just on Twitter just to make that poll look so much better than it actually is.
Are you sure? In fact, I'm gonna fact check that actually.
Let's just get rid of these. Sorry, yeah. Please continue, Alan. Sorry, man.
But no, I think it's an interesting view. I mean, there's 50 votes in the poll at the moment, and it's still got a good few hours to run. So that's a decent number of people. To be fair.
No, well, like you said, Alan, look, like, you know, obviously I'm trying not to be biased because obviously, like, you know, why I liked Andy Halliday in the first place wasn't because I watched a lot of him before he came to Hearts, but like, of course, like I watched a lot of the Open Goal podcast as well, and he seemed quite a nice, like, sort of funny guy. So obviously I'm going to have that sort of part of me that thinks, no, why you been was it mean to him? Why you been did this and blah blah blah. But you know, I mean, throughout the time that he's been in the first team squad in place of Alex Cochrane, like, yeah, granted he's not been amazing and he's not like sort of like, you know, shun out of his shoes, no, like not by any means of the imagination, but again, like I think he's done a decent job, and I do agree with yourself that, you know, if he's going to be in and around the squad, you know, at the worst case, if he is like a backup as well, like again, like there's worst was of players to have, like, you know, and like, you know, Halliday, he, like, you know, tends to do his job. Yeah, like he can be a bit of a hothead, and then in turn it can maybe, like, you know, cost of the squad in terms of like, if he were to get sent off, etc. But like you said, I think for all players, like in general, but I think in particular for Andy Halliday, I think he had an unfair advantage even before he like sort of actually played for Hearts. Like, like you said, like above his like support of Rangers as well. But like everyone, even if you are like a football player, everybody like is entitled to talk about their team, like like etc. But I think in the long term, I could only see it being more of a positive thing than a bad thing as such. But only time will tell, Alan. But in that same breath, of course, there has been some talk on the other side of that as well when Halliday's contract extension was announced. Now, I think a lot, I mean, not all of the Hearts fans, but a majority of them have been crying out and crying out for for that one glorious post to say that the beautiful Austrian that is Peter Haring has signed a contract extension. But as of yet, we are coming to the end of February, nearly at the end of the season. And there's not been, even throughout the last sort of 4 or 5 months, there's not been a lot of talk of Haring, even from Robbie as well. Do you think that possibly because we're getting to the tail end of the season now, do you think that the chances of Haring possibly getting a contract extension seem to be getting kind of dimmer as time goes on? Because he has played very well, especially like after his horrible injury that he had, and I'll speak for myself that I didn't think he was going to be the player that he once was, but he's, I think for the majority of this season he's been absolutely great. So yeah, like where do you stand on that, Alan? Do you think he'll actually be offered like sort of any sort of extension soon?
I hope so. I hope so. But I think, like you're saying, there's not been a lot of chat about it. Pardon me. There's not been a lot of chat about it from the club or from Haring himself. I think there was an interview done maybe a month or two ago, where he was asked about it, and he said something along the lines of he's relaxed about the situation and he's just wanting to play games and be involved and help, and that it would be resolved when it's time to resolve that.
Yeah.
I think there was an interesting one today. Robbie mentioned something about, I don't know where the quote was. I saw it on social media, so believe it if you want. I don't know the original source, but hopefully whoever's the person that put it out listens to this and will verify where it came from. But it was something on the lines of Robbie said something like, "We've still not decided on Haring yet," which to me is a bit of a worry and not a very positive sign in terms of a contract for him. I think we have to remember as well, Peter Haring's been here for 4 years, had obviously that horrific injury, as you say, and then kind of struggled to get back in, but now he's back to what I would say is probably some of his best performances we've seen. But from his side, if he's the one, this is the thing, we don't know whether he's been the one that's delaying it or if the club have said, actually, we're not going to offer you one right now.
Yeah.
Because if it's coming from Peter Haring's side, maybe he's thinking, right, I've been here 4 years, I've done okay, but I'd maybe quite like to go home. Or
maybe.
You don't know. You don't know. I know that Peter Haring wants to play more because he's said as much as he doesn't like being on the bench. He likes to play. So if he's looking at this team just now and going, well, Robbie seems to prefer Devlin and Benny, which seems to be the case. Peter might think to himself, well, maybe I could go and get a new challenge somewhere else. But no, I think, like you said, my hopes of a Peter Haring contract are dwindling. They're not completely out yet, but they are dwindling. And I absolutely adore Peter Haring. I think he's a fantastic football player. And I think on his day, he can be, one of the most technically gifted players in our team, to be quite honest with you.
Agreed.
But if he was to move or if he was to leave, I'd be disappointed. But I think, like similar to what I said about Robbie last week, with enough credit in the bank from me to keep my backing for Robbie, Joe Savage and Robbie and the recruitment team have kind of got enough credit in the bank for the players that they've brought in so far, that if Peter Haring was to be allowed to go, I would like to think that they could bring somebody in that's equal ability at least. So yeah, but hopefully all of this is nonsense and the glorious headband wearing Austrian gets a new contract, because I'm sure, like you said, a lot of Hearts fans will be very happy about that.
You and me both, sir. But on that note, like as well as you just said there, Alan, since you did the poll for the Andy Halliday sort of vote, I'm sure that we could do the same vote as well. And would you like to see Haring stay, or would you like to see someone maybe younger and sort of a bit more energetic in that sense, like, you know, just sort of putting it out there? And we would like to hear what your thoughts on that. So obviously, like as well, if we hear anything concerning the contract of the beautiful Austrian, we will keep you updated via our Twitter page. So Alan, not even about the game. You're back in front in the head-to-head, mate. What is happening here? Fucking, this has been a year already to forget for myself. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous.
You see what happens? What happens when I steal your optimistic hat?
Literally, I want it back, mate. Honestly, this is absolutely disgraceful behaviour.
I should get off the fence a bit more often, I think.
Possibly, mate. Possibly. But I mean, it did help. But yeah, of course, we are referring to the 3 points that was picked up on the road in Paisley, where Hearts came out on top from a 2-goal win against St Mirren. Finally, a bit of optimistic fucking viewing on that matter. So yeah, of course, like, you know, we'll talk a bit about the game itself. Obviously, you and me and a lot of the Hearts sort of crowd as well were crying out for some sort of change, whether that be a change in the personnel, whether that be a change in the system, and ask and you shall receive. So Robbie Nielsen put out a system which was a 4-2-3-1 system in the game and the build-up against St Mirren, and it was obviously amazing as well to see Halkett back as well, which I'll say, like, you know, from my point of view, like as well, like, you know, we've talked a bit about him, Alan, throughout the last wee bit as well, where, like, you know, maybe since he came into Hearts, like, he's not been the player that we thought he was going to actually be, like, you know, like a very young Scottish, like, sort of young centre back, thinking that, like, you know, Hearts tend to have like a very sort of pedigree, like, of bringing up like young central backs from Scotland, like, as well. But I have to take my hat off to him throughout this season as well. Like, you know, I think he's been absolutely terrific. But of course, you had not sort of your concerns, but a bit of a thought in terms of with Halkett returning for the game and this new system that we put in place for the match. Of course, like, he's never really looked stable in a back four as opposed to the back five that we have been playing throughout this season. But yeah, like, you know, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, were you actually concerned in the sense that he would maybe revert back to his old ways, in the sense that he might be a bit sloppy, like, etc.? What were your thoughts on that, my man?
I think, first of all, I think the most important thing is that he's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've missed him massively. And not even from a technical point of view, not even from an ability point of view. I think we've missed him in terms of his leadership, in terms of his, you know, he's just solid. He's just solid at the back. And yeah, like you said there, it was one of those situations, and I remember a while ago when we had Daniel and Adam on, when we were doing our Hibs preview many episodes ago. It was Daniel that brought it up about Halkett playing in a 3 as opposed to a 2. And yeah, I did have my concerns when I saw the team sheet, but it's funny because the way that the team sheet looked and the way that the players that he picked, I did originally think it was a back 3. And then after a little bit of scrolling through social medias and, you know, asking a few questions, it turned out that it was in fact a 4-2-3-1. As I say, I think the main thing is to have Halkett back in the squad, and
100%.
I think it's not come at a better time because Toby Sibbick has had a couple of average performances.
Yeah,
And
it's not been great. Yeah.
Needs to be put on the bench for a little bit. So yeah, no, Halkett back is a massive bonus, and I think as long as he's playing next to Suter, the two of them complement each other very well in a back pairing. And to be fair, St Mirren offered virtually nothing in an attacking sense, so it was as comfortable an afternoon as Halkett could have hoped for to come back into.
Absolutely, Alan. Of course, not everybody in the Hearts team had the best days at the office where, just for example, our top goal scorer for the season, Liam Boyce, could have scored about fucking 20 goals that fucking game. It just wasn't his day, Alan. Literally, it just wasn't his day. Of course, he was getting himself in the right sort of position to actually have the shots at goal, but literally, I'm not even lying. He could have literally had about maybe 4 or 5 goals to that game. Do you think that it was just maybe down to his sort of confidence that he's not scored as of late, or do you think it was just literally a very bad day at the office?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah,
to be honest, I think it was interesting because the team on a forward sense, obviously Boyce was leading the line, and he had Woodburn in the 10 behind him, and he had Mackay and Gary Mackay-Steven on the wings, which is something that I kind of wanted to see. I still hope that there's a role for Ben Woodburn this season, but with every poor performance, I'm kind of slowly just kind of shifting to the opposite side of why we brought this player in. But no, Boyce, the thing is, and I said this even when we were in the championship, Boyce is an important part of this team, and he's putting himself into positions to score goals. That's all you can ask. On another day, he scores a hat-trick in the first half.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's one of those. He's playing right now, like you say, like a striker who is out of form, not got confidence. But I think the thing we have to remember with Liam Boyce is he's quite a sort of streaky goal scorer. He can go through periods where he doesn't get a goal, and then he'll get one, and they'll all start flowing again.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that rut ends on Wednesday night and he finally gets a goal, because like you said, if he was a bit more luck and a bit more good fortune against St Mirren, and he would have had at least 2 anything.
Literally, and of course it didn't take too long for a big event to happen within the first half. Of course, I'm referring to the sending off of Ronan for the St Mirren for a horrible challenge on Benny Benningnimi. It was literally like a high foot on his was his shin, I think, or something, or his knee, perhaps. But the referee actually got a right decision. Fucking hell, honestly. But again, in that same turn, Alan, I sent you a text as soon as he was 10 off, to kind of hopefully quote myself, I think it was, if we don't get a win with a massive advantage as well, if we can't beat 10 men, even away from home, we have got some serious issues here, some serious problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, for the rest of the first half, we didn't take advantage of the fact
literally
that
did not.
No, we didn't take advantage of the fact we were playing against 10. But I will say, on that tackle of Ronan on Benny, the one literally 30 seconds before it, less than 30 seconds before it, on Gary Mackay-Steven from Fraser, I think his name was.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That one was arguably worse than the tackle that Ronan got sent off for. So, yeah, it wasn't a good tackle at all. He didn't get the ball. I don't know what Stephen Robinson was coming out talking about at the end of the game, saying that it wasn't a red, and he was disputing certain events during the game. He disputed that St Mirren should have had a penalty.
It's good that you mentioned that, because I was going to actually mention this later on, but I think he has a case. I'm not going to sit here and be with a bias, Alan, because we have sat here and we've said about a lot of our sort of claims for penalties, like as well, where like, you know, in previous games, if he's gave that one, then in the next game, if we don't get one, then you have to think, right, well, if he gave like a penalty for that one, then he should have gave one for that one. And again, like I've seen penalties given like maybe a bit, maybe a bit less than that, Alan. Like I do think he had a strong case there.
I think it's one of those that if it's like you said, if it's for your team, you're shouting for it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was against us, I was quite happy.
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah.
Woodburn was He was clumsy. Like Woodburn was very clumsy, but it there wasn't enough in it for me. Put it that way. I think Stephen Robinson after the game, and he spoke about Sims' goal, not Sims' goal, Devlin's goal as well, saying that the goalkeeper got kicked in the head. And I think Stephen Robinson came out after the game like a very unhappy man because we've just spoiled his first game in the job. I think genuinely that's what it was. And I think, you know, I will say, obviously, the second half started a little bit better than the first half ended. And then Robbie did more changes, which was amazing. And yeah, he actually made good substitutions. And it looked like we had a plan. And the players came on and made an impact, which was amazing.
Absolutely shock.
Talking about Gino and Sims coming on for Gary Mackay-Steven and Woodburn, I think it was at that point, who the two of them were average at best. Sims and Gino came on, added a bit of pace to the game, added a bit more directness, and we looked as if we were kind of trying to go after it, you know, because we were, even with 10 or even with a man advantage, we weren't really looking like we were going to get anything until those two came on.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, like, you know, like we talked a bit about it, like sort of just at the end of last year's where like, you know, even when we weren't playing amazingly, we were still grinding out results and still grinding out 3 points as well. Obviously, I wasn't overly impressed about the full performance of the actual game itself, even when they were down to 10 men. But again, I guess it kind of just falls down just that, well, we got the 3 points. It might have not been the most amazing, like, sort of performance, but that is the most important thing at the end of the day. But what was an absolutely beautiful scene, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. He comes from a land down under. Cammy Devlin. Oh, like, I don't know, but I celebrated so much. I celebrated so much, even just watching it on the telly. It just felt like such a moment because most Hearts fans just wanted it just to happen. And his little face lit up, lit the sky blue. It was a lovely scene to see. Of course, it was a relatively, I wouldn't say like it was a relatively simple-ish goal, but it was more or less a tap in. But like, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be there to put the ball into the back of the net. And
absolutely,
I was proud as punch. I was like a proud dad. I really was on.
Do you know what I actually really enjoyed about it? It actually, the whole move showed what Devlin was about. You know, he wins the ball back in a tackle, gets up, plays it off, and then just keeps running. And I think he said, or Robbie said after the game, something along the lines of, we're telling him to get into the box more.
100%, yeah.
Because, you know, of the two, Benny and Devlin seems to be the one that's able to actually get in the box and have a shot and try something. More creative of the two, I would say. Benny's much more the sort of safe and stable sideways passes kind of player, but there's a place for that as well. But
absolutely,
like, you know, when Devlin get on the end of it, like Sims did incredibly well as well. To be fair,
how he snuck that in as well, like with some like it was from like a very rough angle as well. Like to actually score that.
Even in the build up to the Devlin goal I'm talking about, Sims obviously has the ball and has a shot off the goalkeeper. Apparently, Stephen Robinson said he had two hands on the ball, but
no, he didn't. The
ball just sort of bounced back to Devlin, and I know he said it was a tap in, but it was a very technical tap in, if there's such a thing that exists.
Technical tap in, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to put some height on it, and he had to kind of get it in. I loved it, like you say, when he celebrated. It was almost like he didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
he just sort of ran and his little smiling face. I was just like, this guy's loving
Literally.
it. Absolutely loving it.
Brilliant, Alan. Absolutely brilliant. And it was lovely to see as well. And of course, as well, just as I said there, Sims getting his fourth goal of the season, if I'm correct, or like I know it, I know
third or fourth.
I know it is either 3 or 4, but just before we kind of ease out of the game itself, Sims as well. Obviously, like he is just on loan until the end of the season. Again, like I know it's still relatively early days, but I don't know about you, Alan, but Sims, I don't know, like Sims is a player that I would like to see here going into next season. Again, like he's everything. I mean, I know this might be a bit of a touchy or an upsetting subject for yourself, but he is so far everything that I wanted Nando to have. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, in respect to Nando, I think Nando was maybe better at holding up the ball, but with everything else, like, you know, Sims can run, he can hold up as well. He can shoot really well, like, you know, like he's got a bit about him as well when he's up top. I mean, just on that note, I mean, I know it might be too early for yourself to say, but I mean, is he possibly like a player you would like to see here? Like, you know, the going into next year?
Yeah, I think of all the loans that we've got at the moment, he's certainly the one that I'd be saying next season, can we have him back? You know,
Yeah.
for another year, even another year loan, you know,
Mm.
I'd have him back again. I think you're right in what you say about him. I think he's got a little bit of everything. He's not fantastic at
No,
everything.
no,
Like,
I'm not saying that. Yeah.
you know, his first touch can let him down every once in a while. He's not brilliant, but then if he was brilliant, he'd be playing for Everton every week. He wouldn't
Yeah.
be anywhere near Scottish football. So he's a very, very talented player and a good asset for us to have. You know, bringing him off the bench along with Gino, as I said earlier, change the game. Just someone that will be a bit direct and cause St Mirren some problems. And yeah, he's certainly one that if it was available to do, I would definitely have him back next season for sure. I don't know about the rest of the loanees. I don't know. Alex Cochrane started incredibly well and has kind of fallen away a little bit.
Yeah.
Taylor Moore, similar. Ben Woodburn, I think the
Yeah.
less we say about Ben Woodburn, the better, to be honest.
I know, but like even when we talk about Ben Woodburn again, like, you know, I've kind of got the same sort of, or in fact, I think I've almost got the exact same thoughts as you had for Nando. Like Ben Woodburn is a player that I want to do well, and given the opportunity, if he did manage to pull out some the good performances in the remaining games that we've got, he is a player that I would like to still have here, even though he's been average at best. And I'll use your like sort of phrase for most players that aren't doing incredibly well. There is a player there. There is a player there, and yeah, just I think he's got so much potential. But because I keep coming back to it, why would he be on the books for one of the best teams in Europe right now? You know, I know I know you're kind of swaying to the other side, but I want him to do well, and I think we've seen glimpses, like really small glimpses of what he can do, but it's just to kind of put that into like a repetitive mode and to show that for every single game. But I don't know if he's competent or maybe even experienced enough to do that yet.
Yeah, I think the sort of thoughts I have on Ben Woodburn at the moment, I think I don't like to say it because we've seen a lot of players come up from England to Scottish football, think it was going to be easy, and fall flat on their faces. You know, I'm talking about the likes of Joey Barton. You know, probably the best example I can give you is Joey Barton. You know, he gave it, you know, the big licks about coming up to Scottish football and doing brilliantly, and then he did nothing when he got here.
Right.
I don't know whether Ben Woodburn maybe thought similarly. I don't know whether he thought coming up to Scottish football it might be easy for him and he might, be able to launch his career again or whatever. Because I mean, the interesting thing, and this is a question I'll put to you, his contract at Liverpool runs out at the end of the season. So, do you take a plunge and offer him something at Hearts, or do you look at what he's done for us so far and go, nah, it's not worth risking it?
I think it really falls down to what he does or what he doesn't do throughout the rest of the season. I think he'll need to pull out something amazing, like, in terms of the remaining few games, because of course when he scored these 2 goals, was it actually against St Mirren that it was that he scored these 2 goals? Like it was like the 5-2 game, like or something like that. I think it might have been.
You might be right.
I
can't remember.
but anyhow,
to be quite honest.
When he did score those 2 goals, I thought that was the turning point. I thought, right, this is the player that we expected to see: young, energetic, thriving on wanting to score goals. And then after that game, it just kind of went nowhere at all. Yeah. But I'll be very honest, if he doesn't maybe pull out at least a few good performances from now until the end of the season, if I was Joe Savage, I'd probably be thinking with my head and kind of saying, well, he's not kind of done it this year, so who's to say that he will do it in the next year? And I think maybe to get some new blood in as such might be a good thing. And who knows, like maybe if he were to go to maybe like a championship team, maybe that's more his sort of game as such, where like, maybe like, with them, like, these, with the game here and the English game being very different, maybe that's more his style. And who knows, that he might be able to kind of catch his own form, like, if he were to move like sort of back down south.
No, I think you're right. I think the argument that I'll give in favour of him staying is that he's the profile that we look for at the moment, or we seem to be looking for. 22, a player whose career in England hasn't really taken off. And it could be worth a gamble. It could be worth a gamble. Depending on what he wants money-wise, it could be worth a gamble. But I'm with you. I think he's not done enough to justify a contract being put on the table for him. But it's one of those that if you bring him in, and I'm putting my football manager hat on here, you bring him in for nothing. No, but
I get you, though. I get you.
There's logic. You bring him in for nothing. Well, I say nothing. It wouldn't be nothing because obviously we'd be paying him a wage. But you bring him in on a free transfer, and say next season he starts the season relatively well and kicks on, he's going to be worth something. 22, international for Wales. He's a good young player. There, like I said, and you said it, there's a player there. There is. But whether it's a player that can play in Scottish football, we haven't really seen it so far. But we've kind of drifted off topic a little bit there. I just wondered what your thoughts were on
no, it's all, mate.
Because to be honest, in the game against St Mirren, he dropped a solid 4 out of 10 and got subbed off for a better player. So and we ended up winning the game without him on the pitch. So maybe there's something to that.
Possibly, Alan, but all in good time, sir. All in good time. But yeah, just to kind of end on that note, there's a massive 3 points and a 3 points well needed at this time during the season. So that now puts Hearts 11 points clears and makes me feel a tiny bit better with that gap, with the next team being Hibs in 35 points in 4th place. So we're going to end the podcast with a little look to the Aberdeen game that is on Wednesday. Of course, when we put this out on Tuesday lunchtime, it'll be tomorrow. So, Alan, Aberdeen, what are we thinking? Aberdeen, again, they've been, let's face it, they've been shit this season. They have been absolutely garbage throughout this season. of course, with their brand new the manager like as well. Obviously, for most teams, when they get a brand new coach in as well, they always seem to have that like sort of new sort of environment, that sort of few like sort of game bounce as such, very sort of positives and trying to get results from the back of that as well. So, what are you thinking, Alan? Are you good? Are going to still keep my very optimistic hat, or are you going to be taking the Shoelace Express on that fence, my man?
I am a lot more confident the fact the game's at Tynecastle, put it that way. Like you say, Aberdeen haven't been fantastic this season by any means, but it's so funny because below us, obviously you mentioned it there, Hibs are fourth with 35 points, but then Aberdeen are ninth and they've got 32.
Literally, Alan, like from literally Ross County, that's in 10th place, and from Hibs, that is in 4th place. There's literally 5 points. Like literally, even with Ross County being in 10th place, they could still get fucking Europe this season. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, it just shows you how kind of strange the league season's been this year.
Yeah.
Ourselves, Celtic and Rangers are the only 3 teams with a positive goal difference, which is totally bizarre. But to talk about the game against Aberdeen, like I said to you last week, I was very confident about a St Mirren result. I thought we would win. I'm delighted that we won. I said last week I felt like all we needed was one win to get us back on track again. And I think I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to say we're going to win on Wednesday night. I'm going to go for a 1-0.
Ooh.
And I think it's a massive game. Like, it's a huge game. And then we've got Dundee United the weekend after. So that's 2 sides that are not far away from us, albeit on points.
Literally, apart from St Johnstone and was in Dundee, every single team like is all fucking like there. So, yeah, I honestly don't know, Alan. I don't know if I'm just going through a very negative sort of patch, like for myself. Like, I mean, if we were to look back at all the predictions that we've done throughout this season, I think about 90% of mine, maybe apart from Celtic and Rangers, I think have all been was it wins. I really don't know, because again, because I do think that Jim Goodwin is a good manager. I think, like, what he did with St Mirren in general, like, kept them stable, like, kept them like a team in the top league. So I think, I really don't know, Alan. My heart is saying ahead. Sorry, what? My heart is saying a win. My head is saying a draw, and I really don't know which one to go for. But fuck it. Let's be positive about it, Alan. Let's be positive.
We've had some stinkers recently. Get some positivity out there.
Let's get some positivity out there, Alan. And I'm actually going to go down the same route as you, and I'm also going to go for a 1-0 victory as well. I don't know why, Aberdeen have been shocking this year, but again, it's Aberdeen. Like, they are a really good side, like, especially throughout this past sort of maybe 10 years or so, they've always been in and amongst like the top teams. It's always a team I don't fear, but always a bit concerned about whether they come to Tynecastle or wherever we go to Abertawdry. So yeah, let's go for a 1-0 win. Yeah. Right, okay. Yeah, let's stick to it. Let's not change our mind.
You sound like you're trying to convince yourself. You sound like you're trying to convince yourself that it's the right thing to do.
I know, right? Yeah.
1-0 no, I think you're right to be a little bit kind of nervous about it, because it's the sort of game that we should win, but you just don't know. As I say, we drew with them earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm with you in the sense of I get where you're coming from, but I just feel I just feel a lot more confident. And I think the biggest thing for me, and the thing that will be very interesting to see, will be how Robbie sets the team up.
Yeah.
Because obviously we've played this 3-4-3 for months, and then he's changed it for St Mirren, and we won. So does he stick to this 4-2-3-1, or does he go back to the 3-4-3? I don't know. I think it'll be quite interesting to see what Robbie chooses to do.
Well, again, Alan, like, it just falls down to, like, I don't think personally you should change a winning formula. Like, if it's worked, then don't change it. Like,
yeah,
literally simple as that.
Oh, and like you said earlier on, I think the fact that fans and everybody had been crying out for a change, he then changes it against St Mirren. And I think if he changes back to the 3-4-3, I think
it won't go down well. No.
Yeah, no, exactly. So hopefully we see a 4-3-2-1 or whatever, a 4-2-3-1. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers muddled up. But yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely, Anna, absolutely. So yeah, we would love to hear what you guys think the result will be this coming Wednesday night against Aberdeen at Tynecastle, 7:45 p.m. kickoff. We would love to hear your thoughts on what the score will be, and if you think Robbie will stick to the same system as we were against St Mirren. And I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Since I Was Young podcast, episode 42. So from myself and Alan, thank you very much for joining us as always. And if you are not subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast, please think about subscribing it and smash that like button as well. It is always greatly appreciated, guys. And also, if you want to get in contact with us via our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you're more than welcome to. It is on screen at SIWY Puddaby. We've been doing this for 42 episodes, and sometimes I can still never get it right, Alan. And alternatively, as well, if you want to get in contact with us via our email, you can, since I was young, 1874 at gmail.com. And alternatively, if you want to get in contact with either myself or Alan, please feel free to do so. Both of our links will be in the description to our Twitter pages. And Alan, let's hope it's a win, because if it is a draw, like, seriously, I'll be the most negative arsehole for the rest of the season. Like, literally, I will get knee deep into stats, and I'll say why that player's shite, why that player should be loaned back out, Ken. I'll be all about it.
I'll give you one more chance to change your prediction right now.
Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right.
1-0, and it's going to be. And I'm going to feel it as well. Barry Mackay to score his first goal. I'm
going Liam Boyce to finally break his duck and get a goal. I'm going Boycey. I've got faith.
Love it, mate. Love it. Well, we will soon find out. But from both myself and Alan, we do hope you have a good day if you're going to the game as well. And to all of the viewers, we will see you next time. And thank you very much for watching. Again, you take care. Bye for now.